course you do.
Uh, I'm not going to say anything. All right. Hey, fans of the Monday Movie Club. We're the five idiots that comprise the Monday Movie Club. This week, we watched one of Joel's selections, Shadow of a Doubt, which is an Alfred Hitchcock movie, a black and white Alfred Hitchcock movie from 1943. Joel, did you purposely set out to annoy Mark?
Always. If I can't annoy you, I annoy Mark. That's pretty much how I operate.
All right. Well, here I'm Frank Gaffney. Amy Goldman is doing her eye exercises. What was that?
My eyes are watering.
All right. Annie King back in the purple room. She's back to school, so she ain't traveling too much. Mark Wotitz Gardner. No background. You know he doesn't like the movie when there's no background. And Joel, who's still posing as Natasha Fenster.
Oh yeah. It's the two.
So, contrary to what Mark is about to tell you, this is a good Hitchcock movie. In the first minutes of the film, when the landlady comes into the room and pulls down the shade, casting a shadow of a doubt on Joseph Cotton, you know the master's at work. And we love Alfred Hitchcock. Here's the basic plot of the movie. After Joseph Cotton learns that two men are looking for him, he heads to his sister and her family in the small town of Santa Rosa, California. Among them are his namesake, Charlie, short for Charlotte, who is played here by Teresa Wright, who was a pretty big deal back in the day. And she actually gets top billing here over Joseph Cotton. And she becomes suspicious of Uncle Charlie and what he may or may not be hiding from the family. And I love the fact that she's his niece, because then there's obviously no romantic entanglements to keep her. But worse than that is the blood relation. You know, they love Uncle Charlie, and and it's hard for them to even think about him possibly being a murderer. So, and because, Hitchcock was never a fan of the police, here the detectives are not very helpful. They're actually pretty useless, and they tend to get in the way. Um, but and I think one of the negatives for me in the movie really is Charlie getting involved with the detective. Not a good love story in the movie. So, but I think Teresa Wright is so good in this movie. She's sympathetic, she's compelling, and she's pure innocence. She's such a Nancy Drew. She's a little Nancy Drew. But at the same time, she's not naive, and she's optimistic, she's hopeful. And after she discovers the truth about Uncle Charlie, then she's determined to wipe out this evil threat to her family. And Joseph Cotton, so great because he's so menacing, and he's up to this point, I think, Joel, correct me, has played, just nice guys. So it was a nice turn for him. And you can totally see how anybody would be seduced by him. And I read somewhere that Hitchcock kind of made him a Dracula, that he's shown lying down in bed like he's in a coffin, and he's averse to the sunlight. It's so funny. But there's that creepiness that just is a little distressing to the whole thing. So, and together they are quite the match. So in the end, small town America isn't varnished by this evil as long as someone is there to protect it. Yay. And while it is obviously one of his lesser known films, I think it ranks up there with one of his best. I really do. This was the one that Alfred Hitchcock said was his favorite, because he said he loved the idea of bringing menace to small town America. Who doesn't? That's fun. All right. So, and of course, Alfred Hitchcock. Nobody does it better. All right. Let's go to the dissenting voice then. Mark.
All right,
was it just because it was black and white? And
no, and I'll preface what I'm going to say with, I guess, maybe it's been done so many times since then, and this was still 1943. This was maybe the first time it was done, but let me go through my notes.
Oh wait, I didn't say. I give it 3.5 stars, by the way. Thanks for blowing on the truth there, Joe.
Not a problem.
I think it's a sign of the times, but I didn't think any of the acting was good for the most part. I shouldn't say any of the acting, but the entire Newton family, especially the little girl. I mean, I don't know, just the acting. It was overacting. It was just bad acting. There was obviously, and Amy said this in the text yesterday, just a weird sexual tension between the two Charlies, just not right. How old was the girl supposed to be, by the way, Charlie?
She was a teenager. I mean, for
Okay.
sure. I mean, probably. I think she was still in high school.
Yeah, they don't. I don't think they actually say it all, but she's definitely, on the later end of high school thing. So
Yeah,
Okay.
but obviously Teresa Wright was in her 20s.
That was
And
not
she looked
obvious
it.
to me.
She
No.
looked it to me.
I figured she was older, but yeah, I've never heard of her. I don't know who she is.
see,
And-
she just for the record, the reason Teresa Wright gets top billing is because this is her fourth film. Her first three films, she was nominated for Oscars, each one of them, and won for one of them.
Well, and so let me just say that she was not one of the actors that I thought was bad. Both her and you said Joe Cotton, the main guy, they were both very good. They were both very good.
Joe Cotton. They're like on
Joe.
the Friends. The Friends.
Cotton Eye Joe.
Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah. The killer. What's up with Mrs. Newton just offering out her daughters to strangers? Oh, you just go take this one then. And I don't know. I guess that was a sign of small town America,
Exactly.
and also the 40s, which you would never see. that
Yeah,
before.
and they were so trusting of everybody because bad things didn't happen in that cute little small town.
Yes. I did think I just said this basically that the actor playing Charlie was I thought it was sharp looking and well cast. I really did enjoy Hume Cronin and Mrs. Newton talking about different ways to kill each other, and so I thought that was great comic relief. I did enjoy that. But for me, I guess the problem was there wasn't much intrigue because they tell you from the opening that he is a killer, so you don't have to guess if he's a killer. And then for me, and this is where maybe it's because in 1943 this is new, but I immediately knew that since it's a showdown between the two Charlies, it's going to end with one of them getting murdered, and it has to be the killer that gets murdered. So when it actually happened, I guess for me, I would have enjoyed more if he wound up being innocent or he did kill Charlie. It's something that you didn't expect. I saw it coming. I was like this. And so for me, for this being Hitchcock, I knew how it was going to end right away. I was not surprised. It was so that made it boring for me.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that it was new for 1943.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to be fair in my stars.
Just a major star like Joseph Cotton playing this evil character was pretty progressive.
Yeah,
and that's the other part of it. I have no idea who he is. Teresa Wright. I don't know any of the only one I knew was Hume Cronin. And like Amy said, why wasn't he old? He's not supposed to be young ever.
Wrong.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to go with 2.5 stars. I'm being generous because if it wasn't Hitchcock, if it wasn't 1943, I would have given it less. But I think if I had watched it originally, it would have been higher scored.
If you had watched it in 1943, you weren't
Yes.
even alive.
But if I went back in time.
Oh, I see.
if you went back in time, that's not the first movie you're going to go watch.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For the first time.
Anyway, that's it for me.
Maybe you could go back and save Sarah Connor. Annie King,
Yeah, so I'm
had you seen it before?
no,
No.
never. And
Joel, wait a minute. Joel, was this a film school one or no?
I did not study it in film school, but I may have. I don't remember if I watched it in high school or college first. So
All right. Annie, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, I had never watched it, and I don't think I've watched any Hitchcock. Just not my genre, I guess. Sorry, guys.
Annie,
Not
I'm
even,
with you,
not even
Annie.
Psycho?
I don't know if I could get my eyebrows any higher than that.
Annie, this is my first Hitchcock too.
Oh my
okay.
God.
The
Joel,
Birds?
put Psycho on the list for next year.
no, even better. Put Gus Van Sant's remake of Psycho on the list for next.
No,
Start
don't
there.
do that. No. All right, Annie, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear he's great, so I was interested in watching it, but I have to kind of agree with Mark. I knew everything that was coming, with the newspaper. I'm like, oh, she's gonna find that, and just everything that it was funny, like running to the library as the clock is, it's like it's closed. Obviously, you're not going to make it in time, and
I'm sorry. I know I'm trying to defend it, but again, in 1943, the audience that was watching it wasn't as sophisticated as we are today. So they needed to be given these, signposts to know where we were going.
yes, and they were given a
Really?
lot of signposts, a lot of different clues, yeah, very much so. So, pretty much Mark said it all, same thing. So I'm going with a 3. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. It just wasn't, I guess because maybe I watched so much, like Criminal Minds
If
and
you love your crime dramas.
yeah, so that, you're always expecting that twist at the end.
Yeah.
No twist here.
No.
Aim. First Hitchcock. I find that very hard to believe.
Yeah, just like Annie's, I always thought I really should see Psycho and North by Northwest and The Birds, but I'll watch Ferris Bueller instead.
20 times.
Right. God, what was I just gonna say? Oh, speaking of the twist, because I had never seen Hitchcock, I was under the impression, am I wrong, or did he change as I was gonna say got older, but whatever I'm trying to say.
Change from what?
From not having a big twisty ending to having a huge twisty ending. Like I was talking to Nan and I said, well, I'm looking forward to it because I love the ending of every single episode of Twilight Zone. It rips the rug right out from under you. That's what I was.
Yeah, no, that's not Alfred Hitchcock.
No.
That's M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
Yeah.
No.
Alfred Hitchcock was not a big twisty ending guy.
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I
Now I
mean,
definitely need to.
What's the twist here? That you already know Uncle Charlie's a killer from the get-go. So
Right, but that's what Mark is saying, that he would have liked it better if there was a big twist where he was
But
innocent,
he wasn't.
or
yeah.
he did actually kill Charlie and got away with it.
Yeah, and I just could I just jump in 1 second? This movie makes me want to rewatch Rear Window because I did see that once and I
Okay.
did thoroughly enjoy that one. But just like Amy said, it's not about a twist. It's just about it's thrilling the whole time. I remember being like on the edge of my seat. What's going to happen next? Even if you
Right.
kind of know what's happening.
Yeah,
That was
but I
good.
mean, I think here the suspense was whether or not Uncle Charlie was going to kill his niece. I
Yeah.
think that was the suspense here.
Mm.
Well, that didn't really happen until much later.
Right. I mean, but I Joel, why am I the only one defending this movie?
it's not my turn. I don't want to say anything until it's my turn.
you want to speak out of turn?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it was the suspense of everybody else finding out. Yes, we knew, but it was about everybody else finding out.
Yeah, sure. The very first note I wrote was the way the newspaper house appeared. He's like, you just fold this piece here and this piece here, and you do this and this, and you cut to the girl and you come back, and it's this like big, huge, glued and hammered in newspaper house. Like, cracked me up. And yes, it killed me, of course, that he threw it out in his garbage pail right in his room, which was ridiculous. Getting back to what you said earlier about the acting, I actually love the girl who played Anne, and I normally hate precocious kids, but I thought she was smart and funny. I loved her, and I of course I loved what's her nuts, Teresa Wright, who I also never heard of, and I did read that she had 3 Oscar nominations and won one. Her first 3 movies out, which is incredible. Oh, and Bringing the Menace, Frank. I think you're the one who said to Small Town America. When the train pulled up and he was in it, I thought the black smoke coming out of this train is going to
Yes.
kill everybody on the planet. And then I read because Alfred Hitchcock was bringing evil to the town with the black smoke. I thought that was great. Never would have gotten that. But some of the editing was weird. Somebody could be like in the middle of a sentence and the scene just ended. I was like, wait a minute. Like 3 times I thought, okay, let's just cut. Okay. I think that is all I wrote, though. I did enjoy it. I didn't love it, but I'll give it a good 3 stars.
Joel,
Oh,
back
my
me up on this.
Of course, I'm going to back you up on this, Frank. It was my pick, and I was saying to Annie before we started.
Wait a minute. Just because it's your pick, you've picked things that you only gave 3 stars. I
know.
want to remind people.
No, I know that, but
All right.
I'm not going to pick something and then give it like 2 stars.
Sure. I loved it. 2 stars.
Right. I'm not Amy. Um, as I was saying,
No,
to
you're
Annie-
Natasha.
I'm Natasha today. I was saying to Annie before we started that to me, there is no such thing as bad Hitchcock. Even his bad films are interesting in some manner. And this is definitely up there in his, his pantheon for me, even though at this point it's kind of a lesser known film.
Pantheon. I like that.
Pantheon.
I feel the same way about the Coen brothers, by the way. That I've never seen a bad movie from them.
Yeah.
I think their movies are always interesting, at
Right.
least.
The thing I love about this movie is that I love that you know what Uncle Charlie is from the get-go, because it then does become this suspense film in the sense that when is the family going to find out? How is the family going to find out? What is Uncle Charlie going to do in Santa Rosa? Is he going to get to Mrs. Potter, after he meets her? When is that going to happen? How is that going to happen? Is his sister going to find this out? She obviously idolizes and adores him. And, how devastated is she going to be when we get to that reveal at the end? And that's the thing, is that we never get that reveal beyond Charlie and the detectives, who essentially know, not almost from the get-go, but Charlie figures it out pretty quickly once he's there and settled in. But Uncle Charlie becomes a hero to the town of Santa Rosa at the end, and is given, funeral of crazy proportions. And I love that because it plays into Hitchcock's black humor. He's throughout all of his movies, there is a very dark humor that runs through them. And that's kind of how I play things as well. So I love that aspect of him. I love Charlie's father and Herb, their conversations about, thinking up ways of trying to kill each other. It's hysterical. And I don't know if you noticed their first bit when they're talking about detective stories on the porch, that they're actually referring to Hercule Poirot and Agatha Christie in that discussion.
If you say the French guy, that's who you think of.
Yeah.
Although he's Belgium.
Well, yeah.
Right.
But it's an interesting commentary on Hitchcock thinking of Agatha Christie and Hercule Poirot, but it's just fun in that sense. And I think that, to get to some of Mark's criticisms, which are all valid, if you've seen Rear Window, or you've seen these tropes enough times, and I'm not going to say they started with Shadow of a Doubt, but it's definitely an earlier example of it, that you've seen a bazillion times in the last, 70, 80 years anyway. I just derailed my own thought. Oh, Mark's criticisms about seeing these tropes and stuff that you can't, when you look back at 1943 and you see how the Hollywood system was working and functioning, you had to deal with, we didn't have the MPAA back then, but you had the Hays Code, and there was no way the Hays Code was going to allow a movie to be made where, the bad guy wins in the end.
Yeah, gets away with it.
Right. Or
although like you said, Hitchcock does come on that by giving him that funeral.
Yes, Hitchcock was good at playing by the rules and then bending and twisting them to his own way, and I think that's part of a masterful director. And I think every shot in his film has an intention and a purpose. We talk about the train arriving in Santa Rosa, and it's not just the black smoke that's billowing up that's bringing evil into town, but if you watch closely, you see that the train, as it's coming in, casts shadows across the entire family as it pulls into the station. And it's like, all right, yeah, these people are about to be affected by whatever is coming in some manner, and we know what's coming.
I think part of that is because he started out in the silent film era, so he was telling things visually a lot.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, but his actual first job in the film industry was writing intertitles for silent films. So, he knew not only how to tell a story with words when necessary, but also knew that you had to tell it visually because that's what silent films were. And I love the fact that, you know, it's rare in a Hitchcock film that you will see that much literal text. But when Charlie discovers the newspaper article and you're literally reading it with her as she's
Yeah,
reading
that
it,
was great.
I was like, that's just amazing. You know, nobody would, you know, attempt to get away with something like that and not have it be cheesy, but it works beautifully here because it gives you that, you know, we knew he was bad. Now we know how bad he really is because he's given Charlie the ring from this lady, you know, and now we know who the lady is and blah, blah, blah. So I've seen the movie a bazillion times. I could watch it a bazillion more. It's not necessarily my all-time top favorite Hitchcock film, but it's definitely up there. So
Top 10 for sure.
Oh yeah, I actually said Danny, I think it's probably in the top 3. You know, it's like North by Northwest, Rear Window, and this are definitely my.
Yeah, I know you're not the fan of Vertigo.
Yeah, I'm not the fan of Vertigo. Drilled into my head in film school. I was just, I have enough. I've had enough of Vertigo. I don't need to do this anymore. But
I saw high anxiety, so I consider that I'm good. You know,
Yeah,
I don't
that
need to watch
counts.
Vertigo.
That counts for sure. Yeah. No, but I think at the time we were in film school, at least the Vertigo wasn't beloved, and I think that it was a conscious effort by all these professors to say, "No, look at this one.
Yeah,
You know Psycho, but look at this one."
right. Well, here's a movie that has more subtext than anybody ever wants in a movie, and we're gonna drill it into your heads until you're nauseous. So,
and we could get it for cheaper than Psycho.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna give it 3 3/4 stars.
3 3/4.
Yep.
Wow, that's more than me.
Oh, top 3.
All
Is
right,
North by
so
Northwest the movie I should watch?
Yes. I just watched it recently again, and it's still a brilliant movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either.
wait, well, maybe Joel, put it on your list. Let's watch it next year.
All right,
Hi.
I'll change my list.
Yeah, I mean it is one of his best. Okay, are we done? Any further
One of the trivias that I loved when you were talking about small town and the fact that they filmed in a small town, because the rules are very different than they would be if you film in Los Angeles. The location manager found this great house. It wasn't perfect. It was older, so you know, they didn't want to make him too rich, and it was a little dilapidated and the crappy looking garage. And then when the family got the contract to film there, they fixed the house up. Hitchcock was like, "What the fuck?" And they had to mess up everything they fixed, and then they brought it back to the pristine that they did. They've got a new paint job and everything. I was like, "Oh God, that's great."
That's pretty funny. They're like, "We're gonna be enough for Hitchcock movie. We gotta fix everything."
Yeah.
Quickly addressing the whole small town, shooting location again. And I know Mark had a problem with, I can't remember the actress's name, but she played Anne, the sister. She was plucked out of a line of people waiting for a bus in town.
Just like Edward. So she's the Edward Furlong of this week.
Yes, but and she,
was
she didn't do much after this. She was in a few films, a couple of uncredited roles as kids, and by the age of 20, she had retired and gone on to something else. And even the actor playing Roger, I think, even though he did a lot of uncredited films as well after this, he had a longer career of doing that. But I just find that funny. Even the actress who played Catherine and Charlie's friend with the glasses, she was also a local that was.
Oh, with that huge underbite.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And who was the actress who played the waitress? I was like, okay, she is completely drugged up. I thought this was going to be a joke, and she's going to break out of this bizarre character.
She seemed more like, she had been working in a bar for like 40 years, not 2 weeks.
And she had been drinking in the bar for 40 years.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I did have one last comment. Right after Charlie the killer is killed, I immediately thought this poor girl has to go back and say to her parents now, number one, Uncle Charlie's a killer and he's dead.
or how about, and he tried to kill me.
And he tried to kill me. But I guess that's not the way it went.
No.
Well, let's recreate that scene.
I think that if these kind of movies come up, that I need a little like preface before I watch the movies so I can look for things. So I need a little bit of a, like, this is Hitchcock, who's great at like symbolism. So while you're
Yeah.
watching, look for those things.
Yeah.
Joel, you have to write up a synopsis.
Okay, the next time I'll do that. Go back and rewatch the movie and look for references to Dracula, both visually and literally, and then look for how many times the number 2 or dual things are mentioned.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
all
no.
over the place.
I don't agree with that. I think I like to have a pure experience and not know anything. I don't even read reviews before I go see a movie because I want to just experience it.
But I think you get so much more out of it if you understand symbolism, like the black smoke representing evil. I didn't get that. I just thought, oh my God, they're gonna
Right.
kill all the people in the atmosphere.
Yeah, but one thing we learned in film class is that even if you don't consciously notice it, you subconsciously notice it.
Mm.
It's like sometimes a cigarette is just a cigarette.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, okay, that's it. We're done. Thank you. Shadow of Doubt is available on Peacock if you subscribe to that streaming service. I think Joel and I are the only two. Or you can rent it for $3.99 or check your library. So next week, you got it from the library?
Yep.
Next week, it is my selection, and we're gonna watch Crash from 2004, the movie that inexplicably beat Brokeback Mountain for the Best Picture Oscar. Crash is on HBO Max if you want to join us.
Can't we watch the 96 David Cronenberg version of Crash instead?
It's not available.
Here it is.
All right.
I have it.
And of course, you can join us here if you want to chat with us about any movie that you like or you think is fun. And if you're still watching this, then join us here. So I'm Frank Gaffney. Watch a movie, any movie.
And also with you.
I think that